My name is Clay Williams, and this is People Talks, presented by Canal Pursuit Productions. The idea behind People Talks is that everyone has a story, and everyone's story has value. People Talks is a mixture of people with lived experience and people who work in health and fitness fields, one speaker each week. This week's speaker is Sophia Leah. Here's an excerpt from a CBC Kids article from March of this year. It took a pandemic to push Sophia to launch a creative project and hopefully help other teens at the same time. On August 1st, 2020, she launched a mental health magazine called Sophia Leah. Now, only 3 issues into the project, and this was back in March, Sophia Leah Mag has 100,000 followers on Instagram, a glossy website, and a number of celebrity endorsements by people like Grammy Award-winning musician K.D. Lang and Olympian Hayley Wickenheiser. The magazine is free to read online. It's also printed on demand for those who are willing to pay the printing costs. Each issue includes conversations about heavy topics like mental illness, depression, anxiety, and addiction. The magazine also features conversations with inspiring people such as Heartland actor Alicia Newton, TikToker Spencer Barbosa, and US surfer Bethany Hamilton. Sophia said she learned the power of positivity after dealing with ongoing health problems as a kid. She hopes to study psychology one day. In the meantime, she said getting messages from readers who say the magazine inspired them to get professional help with their mental health is the most rewarding part. Sophia, welcome to People Talks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad we were able to connect. The CBC News article was passed on to me from kind of a friend of a friend, and she said, "Hey, you've got to have Sophia on your podcast. That'll be awesome." So yeah, I'm glad we were able to finally connect. So part of the article said you struggled with health problems as a kid. Can you kind of lead me through your story before the magazine?
So I had a great family growing up, still do, great support system, friends. I had everything I needed, but every single year, starting from like grade 3 to grade 8, I would get very sick every winter, like either severe bronchitis, pneumonia, a throat infection, things like that. And it would go on for like a month and a month of missing school. And then that kind of brought anxiety and depression and me kind of being in a mental state of always telling myself, I don't feel good. I'm so sick. Things like that. And by not being at school for so long, I started developing anxiety for going back. So even when the, sickness or illness would come to an end and it was time to go back to school, I didn't want to because I was feeling kind of depressed and anxious. And I saw so many different doctors, and family doctor kept doing tests and was saying, you know what, you have an amazing lifestyle, you eat good, you get exercise, you get enough sleep. They could not figure out why I would always get sick until I realized that it was my mindset. I was bringing it onto myself, constantly negative and constantly telling myself that I'm sick or I don't feel good or this is wrong or that is wrong. And that's what would kind of make this stay for so long. And honestly, the day that I realized that I was doing this to myself, it stopped. And don't get me wrong, it could be a huge coincidence, but I don't think so.
Wow, that is really powerful. I've talked to quite a few people about the mind-body link, right? The people that have been on the podcast are in that I've talked to about that link are in fitness fields. So looking at kind of the opposite end of what you were talking about, looking at optimum performance, right? It was a pro soccer player talking about that last 2% of the performance band and getting that premium optimum performance. But there's it's our whole lives, right? So the attitude changes, even those something as fundamental as our kind of overall health, which you wouldn't, that's a surprise. It's awesome.
You always think that it's something physical that's causing it, but as soon as you applies. I mean, to an extent, of course, disease and illness is still real, but I feel like your mind and the messages that you're sending yourself can affect your healing process so much. You
Mm-hmm.
can make yourself feel sicker than you actually are just by telling yourself every day, I
Mm-hmm.
feel horrible and I look horrible and I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. And you can make yourself honestly be sicker than you actually are just by what you're telling yourself. Or you can also make yourself feel better than you actually do by telling yourself and sending yourself those good messages. So that's like the huge thing I learned. And I thought, well, what if this applies to everything, problem related, mental health related? When you think about, in the long run, and think about, even though I'm going through something really hard right now, it's only temporary and it's going to get better. So when you apply that to other things and other mental health problems that you might face, it's really cool to see how it all connects.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and it definitely takes a concerted effort to do that, right? It's a little bit of a change of focus or change of certainly change of attitude. It's a
Yeah,
simple thing, but not an easy thing, right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. There's the things that happen to us, and then there's the way that we react to the things that happen to us, and the way that we react is so much more important than the things that happen to us in a lot of
absolutely.
cases, right?
And sometimes you can't control, or often you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you react and how you deal with the situation, no
Hmm.
matter what it is, not just in illness, but in life, like
Hmm.
whatever it is that you're going through,
Hmm.
how you handle the situation can affect the outcome immensely.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure, for sure. So tell us about the magazine. That it's amazing. I've seen it online. It's uh, it's chatelaine and different message certainly, but the gloss and the look of the website and the people that you have endorsing it is amazing. What was the first vision of this or this magazine for you?
Well, thank you so much for the kind words. Honestly, during the pandemic, it was like kind of a couple months in, I noticed that not only myself, but almost everyone was getting hit super hard by COVID. And even the people who always had a positive mindset and you always saw a smile on their face, even them, they were dealing with things because COVID was so
Mhm,
unexpected. And then suddenly you can't see your friends, you can't see your family, and you can't do this and you can't do that. And it's just like, whoa. Now I can't do anything. And it's kind of puts you in that state of depression if you allow it to. So I saw that so many people were struggling, not just me. And I thought, it'd be so cool if we could normalize the topic of mental health, break the stigma around mental health by doing this magazine where people can share their experiences, they can offer advice, they can talk about what they've been through. And not only that, but how did they heal? How did they overcome it? What kind of things did they implement into their life to get better, no matter what scale it's on? And mental health looks different for everyone. Some people it's just keeping a positive mindset, and some people it's battling addiction every single day or depression every single day. But I feel like no matter what scale it's on, it's still valued. And no matter what you're facing, even if it's not as heavy as certain things, it's still something that needs to be taken seriously.
mhm. Yeah, for sure, for sure. So did you how big is your staff? Like, how many people do you have working on the magazine? Was it just you that got it started, and what's that look like now?
So I started with absolutely no idea what I was doing. I'm no graphic designer, I'm no mental health professional, nothing like that. I was just a girl with an idea. And I was like, I don't know if this is possible, but over the last year, I've become one of the people who just jump into something and it's like, hopefully it works out for the best.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very lucky to have very supportive parents who hopped on the idea right away. They wanted to do whatever they could to help me, as well as a graphic designer in the family. So that was
Nice.
incredibly lucky because I can't do this by myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I really can't. So to have that was amazing. And over time, I kind of learned a few business skills and social media and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, yes, it was my idea, but it would not be possible without all the love and support I've received from people. And it's not just the people creating it, but it's also the readers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and people sharing their stories and opening up. And it's hard to ask someone to be vulnerable and share their experiences and what they've been through and say, especially with the first issue, I'd approach people and say, hey, can you write about your life-threatening mental health disorder that you had, and for what? For a mental health magazine that doesn't even exist?
Yeah.
So at the start, it was really hard to get people to hop on board, but I did get those first few. And once having that, people realized that, it's kind of picking up and, oh, my friend shared their story, so maybe it's my turn now. And they
Mhm.
realized that mental health is not such a big deal. And it's something that can be talked about without judgment or people thinking you're weird or something's wrong with you.
Mhm.
So that's really how it started. But it's
Yeah.
not just me, it's so many people that I have to thank who really helped me.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like a lot of a lot of movement towards normalizing conversation around mental health, right?
Yeah.
Um, One of the things I think you said in your interview was people are feeling less ashamed to say, "Hey, I'm seeing a psychologist." Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
so the stigma is slowly breaking, and that was a big thing when I started working in mental health. When I started mental health advocacy, um, in 2014, 2015, there was a lot of media coverage at the time. About our military and veterans struggling with PTSD, and the stigma around that was huge, and there still is, certainly, right, to a certain degree, and I think that's maybe a maybe a project that's going to take almost a generation to get over. Um, but yeah, I think the stigma is slowly melting away.
I
Um,
think it
but
is
I think
too.
we need to just keep talking about it, right? So conversations about mental health between you and your friends, between me and my friends, maybe once in a while at work, maybe eventually across the boardroom table or the floor of the legislature or parliament, right?
Yeah, and mental health is such a big thing, and it's real. You can see it, and it's something that every single person has. And I know some people still don't see mental health as something that's real. And some people do hold judgment for people who speak out about their mental health because they think, there's something wrong with that person or they're weird. But in reality, the person judging that person has mental health as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you don't have to put other people down, and even the person who doesn't believe in mental health, them down either, because everyone's struggling and everyone
Mhm.
has their battles, and you never know what someone's going through, and even just one word can push them in the wrong direction,
Mhm.
unfortunately. You never know someone's mental state, and even in middle school, making a comment to the weird kid and you think it's just some silly joke, that could ruin their life,
Mhm.
essentially. You
Mhm.
never know, what someone is going through. So I feel like it's so important to consider that no matter what.
Yeah. 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 The your demographic. So I think kids in middle school, elementary certainly, but middle school and high school even more, um, have been so much more affected, or I think have been so much more affected by the pandemic, because it's cutting off of those personal relationships that are so important during that time. I mean, life is hard enough with all the stuff that's going on. Imagine doing all the stuff that's going on alone, right? And those relationships are so important, and getting rid of those has put an extra little edge on everyone's struggle with mental health, right?
I know now all of a sudden it's, for a student, you already, okay, you have school and you have expectations to have these amazing grades and you have expectations to do all these extracurriculars. And now all of a sudden, oh, you don't get to go to school, you don't get to see your friends, you don't get to see your distant family, you don't get to go anywhere, you don't get to hang out with people, you don't get to try new things, you can't go to the restaurant. It's like all of a sudden, bam, all these things just appear. And especially for younger kids who don't quite understand what COVID-19 is, and now it's
Mm,
just, oh, we're not allowed to go out anymore.
yeah.
It can be confusing for younger people as well.
Hmm.
And even, for parents and grandparents and anyone in general, their life has changed so much. And it's like in a matter of weeks, you're expected to adapt and change and have this new way of living.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, like going into robot mode, right? All the feelings, and it's funny. I had a conversation the other day at work with someone about. I've been lucky enough that I'm still working. I'm in an essential business. I'm in an office, and we wear masks in the office. And one of the effects, I think, of the pandemic is facial expressions. We can't read each other's facial expressions, right? There's so much in nonverbal communication that's important, and that's part of that relationship building and learning to communicate, learning to socialize. You pick up a little on facial expressions, and there's lots of muscles, and we recognize the people's faces. Now we see only the eyes, right? So there's we have to be maybe a little bit more aware of people's eyes, who are looking into their eyes. I've forgotten what most of my coworkers' noses and mouths look like because they're behind a mask. But
Yeah, and
yeah, do we have a mandate to now be more expressive with our eyes because we don't have the other nonverbal communication?
and they say a smile is contagious, and when someone walks into a room and they're all happy and they're glowing and have this huge smile, you want to do
Hmm.
the same thing. But
Hmm.
now that you don't see it, it's hard. You have to imagine it.
Yeah, yeah,
So there's
yeah.
definitely some new things that is like, oh, all of a sudden it's this way, and there's
Hmm.
no way around it. That's the
Yeah.
law, and that's what you have to do. So
Hmm.
it can be really hard to
Yeah,
adjust.
yeah, for sure. So there's a distinction between um, simply the power of positive thinking or self-motivation and mental health. Mental health is a lot bigger area, and your struggle with sickness resulted in understanding the power of positive thinking. Is there kind of a leap to mental health, or what was the impetus there? Was it the pandemic and all the media that was going on around that, or how was that
Well,
sort of jump?
I feel like when your ability to think the good in things and the ability to think positively, I feel like when that goes away, if it goes away for long enough, that's when things like anxiety and depression kick in. So
Hmm.
of course there's that link between the two. And I know that positive thinking is a much lighter topic than heavy mental health, but it all connects in some way. Everything connects, our body and mind, and our thoughts and feelings and everything like that. So I found, the longer that I was going down this path of like, oh, I don't feel good and I'm sick, for, telling myself for that months on end, that's what brought me eventually. It wasn't like overnight, now I'm in a state of super depression. It wasn't like that,
Hmm.
but it was just over time I lost myself. And then it's like, oh,
Right.
I just realized I'm really depressed. I need to talk to someone, and I need to start trying my best. And it's way easier said than done. I
Hmm.
understand that. But I just try my best to tell myself every day, I'm healthy and I'm strong and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling better. I'm excited to see my friends. And those kinds of little affirmations can go a really long way, I think.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Right. Just it seems um, I'm very left brain, logic, engineering, black and white. And the thought of someone telling me that having a sentence written down on a piece of paper and reading that sentence out loud will have an effect on my mental health just seems ludicrous to me. It makes no sense to me. But when you do it, it's amazing. So those little self affirmations, you say a few simple words to yourself that have meaning to you, really have power, and that's an amazing thing to me.
And the thing is even if you don't believe in it, if
Hmm.
you're willing to giving it a try, and you can lie to yourself and tell yourself that you
Hmm.
believe in this and
Yeah.
that you believe it's going to work and you have confidence in it, even if deep down you don't, but if you can
Hmm.
tell your mind that you do, I think that's when it can make an impact. And I was more
Hmm.
so like, my friends told me, you need to be a little more optimistic and think about, the good stuff to come. I'm like, yeah, yeah, whatever, right?
Hmm.
Not think very positively. And then one day I'm like, maybe I could try a bit, even though it's silly, is what I was
Hmm.
thinking.
Hmm.
And I did it over time. Nothing really happened. Nothing really happened. But consistency is key. And then it was like, wait a second. For the last 3 winters, I did not get sick once, and I've been feeling great. So
Hmm. Yeah.
like all of a sudden, that switch just clicked in, and I was like, oh, maybe it does work.
Maybe it does.
Yeah.
So what do you you're still in high school, right?
Yes.
Um, what does the future look like for you? I know it's a wide open thing. You have the world in front of you, right? So what do you has these last few months working on this magazine shaped what you think your future looks like?
Absolutely, because before I thought that university or college was the only option for me. And I am still very passionate about psychology. I am still absolutely considering it because I always had an interest in it. I'm like, it'd be really cool to be able to connect with people every day and help them work through whatever it is they're going through. But the more I realized as I worked more and more within the magazine is that literally that's what I'm doing right now, helping people with their mental health and helping people connect and share their stories. And now I'm just so in love with the project. And I mean, it really depends what the magazine does business wise in the next year, if that can be my full-time job in the future. But if it can be, I would love that because I know
Yeah.
that I'm helping people and reaching new people. And that's so important to me. So
Hmm.
if this were my full-time gig and this is what I did, I would be so grateful for
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's, I think, uh, a layman's view of someone who offers psychological help is a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor or a therapist. But there are so many people involved in providing mental health services and helping other people's mental health that are not trained professionals in mental health areas, right? I mean, there's I I'm an engineer. I run to Ottawa once a year, and I talk to people, and I'm a really good listener, and that has been a comfort to a lot of people, right? So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you've come on to something there. So I don't think that that you definitely have to be a psychologist. Sorry, I'll go on your parents' side. Stay in school, go to university. um, you don't have to, right?
Well, you know
There's a
what?
lot you can do if you're involved in what you're doing right now. Um, who knows how your interests and priorities may change a little bit
Yeah,
as you get into that stream, right?
sure. And what you just said is not staying on my parents' side at all.
Oh,
They're
okay.
seeing what's like happening with the magazine, and they are very supportive of whatever I want
Hmm.
to do, which is really nice to see. And
Yeah.
want to continue helping me pump out more magazines and reaching new people because this just started with a small
Hmm.
project. I was like,
Right.
this is something maybe I could do in one or two issues, and then people really enjoyed it. And I
Hmm.
also thought it was just going to be teens, but turns out people from the ages of 8, 9, 10 to 90 were enjoying it.
Hmm.
And I didn't realize that, but the second I did, I'm like, I really need to continue this because I think it's needed.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are starving for resources, right? I'm really struggling today. I don't even know where to go, and so people start looking, right?
Yeah.
And the cool thing about your magazine, online magazine, is right now it's available to the entire English-speaking world, right? It's not just an Alberta thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Available to anyone. And that was the one thing that's really important to me is that it was available for free for anyone. I know lots of people love, having this in hand and being able to like flip through and read the different stories.
Hmm.
But just if you need a quick pick me up or you need to, maybe you just recently went through something and you can find an article that resonates with you and quickly read it online. It was so important to me that it's something anyone can access. You don't need money, you don't need um, anything like that. It's just something that you can get right then and then there on demand. Yeah.
Awesome. I think we're just about to wrap it up. Is there anything you wanted to cover before we finish up? Anything specific or
I don't think there's anything specific. I just
no?
wanted to send out the message to everyone that mental health is completely normal and it's not something to be ashamed of. Every single person goes through it. Even if they say that they don't, they're lying.
Yeah.
Like some people and some people
Mhm.
have better resources and tools than others. So
Mhm.
some people go through it better, but
Yeah.
everyone still has it because
Yeah.
it's natural. So that's the message that I really want to send out is to not be ashamed about it. And even if you don't feel comfortable seeing a psychologist or talking to someone, even if you can watch videos or read a resource or anything like that to help you. Every little thing counts and will put you in the right direction. Even if it's just one thing for your mental health, one small thing, it'll all add up eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great message. The little things, right? Little actions can have big
Little
consequences
things.
for sure.
And yeah, and it doesn't have to be, okay, I'm going to book myself a year full of psychology appointments 4 times a week. That's not what it has to be. It could be a little thing like giving yourself 20 minutes at the end of the day to wind down and have a glass of tea and just maybe read a book or watch your favorite TV show, and just something to allow yourself to relax and to reward your body and mind for getting through a day, because every single day, has challenges, even if it's a good day. So rewarding yourself mentally and physically, I feel like, is really important too.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sophia, for finally connecting and your time. And I will put the information. I'll put the link to your magazine into the credits that are following right now.
Perfect.
And
Thank you so much.
all right. Thanks. Yeah, I really appreciate that we were able to connect. So when you finish high school?
I'm in grade 11 next
Oh,
year.
okay, next year. Okay, so you still have lots of online learning and all of that junk, right?
Lots
So
of things.
are you back into, does it look like you'll be back into the classroom in September, or for
Who
you guys?
knows? I
Yeah.
mean, when COVID first started, they said in 1 month, we're going back into the classroom, and look at
Yeah.
us a year and a bit later. So honestly, who knows?
Yeah.
But I am an online student anyway, so it doesn't really affect me, and I have to do that because producing this takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I imagine. I imagine.
So when I'm like going back and forth from school to home, and then friends and extracurriculars and all this, plus the magazine, plus
Hmm.
everything else I do, and keeping up with my social media and everything, it's
Hmm.
too much.
Hmm.
So I figured if I shifted to online learning, but still made time for friends and, fun things like
Hmm.
that, which, by the way, I can't even see anyways right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
um, then that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. When the third wave started, I think it was in December in Ontario anyway, they said the third wave is here. And I thought, I didn't even know there was going to be a second wave. When there was info about the pandemic, um, why is there a third wave? How many waves are there going to be, for Pete's sake? So I did a little bit of reading. Apparently the Spanish flu, there were 3 waves, but they could have made that a little more a little more public. But anyway, we'll see. Hopefully the third wave is the last one, and we'll be back. I've got a race actually. I'm hosting a race in October, so hopefully enough people will be vaccinated by then that we can get together and yeah, hug a friend, right?
I know. It's hard. Like, yes, you can still hug people in your household, but not everyone
Yeah.
does. Lots of people live on their own, no matter
Hmm.
what age they are, from the age of
Yeah.
17 to 95. So
Yeah.
it's hard when you live on your own, especially if you're a lot older and you're more vulnerable to it. And
Hmm.
even
Yeah.
the grocery store has become a danger to those people. It's really
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Well, I think we're done. Thank you so
Okay.
much again.